right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation still continues on the state of the race. We're talking about several issues. There's the running mate question, there's the nominations. They're supposed to end today, actually, is the deadline. And then we also have your views coming through. Trevor Mbiji at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. I'll read some of them. I see quite a number of them coming through. Kipruto Rapkiro is still here with us, Deputy Chairperson, UDA. Dan Manzo, Deputy Secretary General, Wiper here, and Professor Tomo Jienda, Kisumu Senator aspirant, is also here with us. You wanted to react to what Honorable Manzo was saying?
I think Honorable Manzo has brought a very interesting matrix, and I think it's a matrix that is attractive.
Yeah.
He has said that Mount Kenya East is out of the question because the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, is from Mount Kenya East. So you cannot have a Deputy President and a Chief Justice from the same region. I think that is his thesis.
Yeah.
Because you must balance, in the interest of balancing equity and regional fair spread of positions.
Yeah.
That Azimio would then sell if it asks Kalonzo as a deputy president, because you have a Chief Justice from Mount Kenya, the governor of Nairobi from Mount Kenya, the deputy governor from Western,
yeah,
the senator from Western, and then the speaker from Mount Kenya again. That's what he said, deep central. I think that is probably those principles, the principles of balancing under Chapter 6 would then be taken into account, because Article 10 speaks to a balance of positions. And I think since Azimio is a widespread of 26 parties, it is something that I think must be taken into account by the Advisory Council and is convincing. And I think pushes Kalonzo Musyoka perhaps to a favorite running mate. It is a possibility.
Yeah. All right. Honorable Kirwa?
Well, apart from getting excited about the fact that Dan Manzo is a very good lawyer,
yeah,
I feel what he's saying has a lot of serious consideration in this conversation.
Okay.
And I hope the council is listening to us and also other players, even on our side, so that as we consider who becomes a running mate and any other position, we must take the totality of the stability of this nation.
Okay.
Such that no part of the country feels that they are left out of government, because that has been the major challenge that we've seen. You remember when we used to have 21 ministers, they used to be spread throughout the country. And that was giving the Kenyans a feel that one of our own is part of this government.
Okay.
Especially when politicians were ministers. But now when we had the other day, after 2010 constitution, it has become almost like quasi-civil servants who become politicians when it is convenient, and they run away from politics when it also suits them.
Yeah.
This is something that we must have as a national conversation, the kind of ministers we should have in future.
Okay.
Are we going to retain the so-called technocrats, as if politicians are not professionals? Because I could be a politician, but also sufficiently informed in terms of education, in terms of experience, and also in terms of nation building.
Okay, let's talk about now nominations, and part of it is here on the Daily Nation front page. It's a done deal, Wanyonyi to deputize Igathe in city contest, and I'll start with you, Kipruto Rapkiro, on this. Does this startle your matrix for the city gubernatorial race?
No, we are okay, because whatever the equation, our governor candidate for Nairobi is the young man, Johnson Sakaja. So it doesn't mess us in any way. It gives us a chance to show part of this country that we are doing better than the other team. So I was very excited when Tim Wanyonyi was not a candidate, because that was going to cause nightmares for us. So the way it is good. It is now that we need to balance where are we going to get the deputy governor, and how are we going to structure, given the fact that our senatorial candidate is Wanjiru.
Yeah.
So we need some kind of balance so that we also hold the city together with the diversity that we have as a nation.
So you're saying if it was Tim Wanyonyi flying the flag, then it would have posed a challenge?
It would have been a nightmare for us. because we would have been going for the same constituency that was saying this time is for us.
Yeah.
So we are happy because Sakaja now we love the youth, we love the Luhya nation, and we love the few Kalenjins in Nairobi, and also the UDA supporters in Nairobi, who are, in my own consideration, is likely to be the majority more than the other two teams.
All right. Banzo, what do you make of this ticket?
Well, I have a lot of respect.
Entrance of Polycarp Igathe.
I have a lot of respect and admiration for Honorable Sakaja. In fact, he was part of the Azimio team, and he was playing a very big role there when all of a sudden him and Mudavadi, after the earthquake, although we didn't feel the tremors as such, they went to Kenya Kwanza, also known as Kenya Kwisha. And unfortunately, the city, we must look at who are the key residents of the city. The biggest population in this city is the Kikuyu, followed by Kamba, then Luhya, and like that. So that also counts. And the investors of this city, the people who have invested in this city have a lot of issues with the people who haven't invested in the city, or the youth, particularly on that particular one. Although Igathe is a youth matching a youth, you can see where Igathe comes from. So it's going to be very tricky, and it will largely depend on who Sakaja or their party chooses to be a running mate. And again, it poses a challenge in terms of the polls, the scientific polls. Although Sakaja is very popular with the youth, the scientific polls have not been in his favor. When we had the other pair earlier on, we had the gentleman of Azimio before, this is, I'm forgetting his name. Gatia.
We had Richard Ngatia.
When Richard Gatia was there, yes, and Kaloki, the polls were different. But I'm still have a lot of feeling for Honorable Kaloki because he's a fine gentleman, very experienced. I don't know where else you serve in government. I'm sure you serve at a serious position. But for Sakaja, the people, the residents, the people who stay there, the businessmen, he must really attract them. He must give them the confidence that he is going to be fully in charge of the city. Bearing in mind this is 60% of the GDP of the country. A lot of investments are here, and you have to, there's something you need from the Wazees. Because they are the determinants here. They really need to have your confidence so that they can be able to trust you with that. Because you are trusting the country with a lot of, financial, you know what is required here. You know the economy of the country. And they really must trust you. And it is a city run by cartels. You must be very good at dealing with the cartels. Otherwise, what will happen to you is what happened to Sonko. That is a good precedence. If cartels land on you, you can no longer be governor.
Who is the one person you've given a direct ticket to run for Mombasa governor after being impeached here?
Yes, you remember President Uhuru and Honorable Ruto had very bad charges in The Hague. And unless you have been convicted, the court ruled that you can still run, which means a precedent has been set unless you have been convicted really, and you have exhausted all your appeal mechanisms, you can still run. And I can assure you the Honorable Sonko was largely destroyed by cartels in the city. He's not as bad as he was depicted. He's very popular with the masses, and he's very popular with the youth, and he's very good for Azimio. If we did not have Sonko in Azimio, we would be in trouble. Because we'll be losing the two cities. We'll be losing Nairobi, we'll be losing Mombasa. I am very sure Sonko will help us in Nairobi, and he will help us in Mombasa. That's why now you must make Kalonzo Musyoka the deputy president. We are bringing on people who are bringing us votes, minus them. Votes.
But you're in the larger Azimio coalition. How then do you hand Honorable Sonko a ticket to vie for Mombasa governorship when Abdul Swamad has also been fronted for that?
It's a very simple equation. It is the locals versus others. You are looking at the Mijikenda plus the 10th tribe of Mijikenda, the Kamba. That's the 10 tribes. We have the Kisauni member of parliament, very serious man. In fact, you remember the people complained they never went for nominations. If they went for nominations, the equations in Mombasa would be different. Now that they chose not to go for nomination, the two parties, and again we have allowed competition within Azimio, because it's a healthy competition, we have one presidential candidate. And that competition still supports the presidential candidate. You will be surprised what will happen in Mombasa. Sonko will take it.
Doesn't that then split your vote and even give the UD advantage on the other side? Because if Abdul Samad is there and Sonko is also there, you're essentially competing.
Who of UDA is in Mombasa? UDA is an Azimio zone. I mean, Mombasa is an Azimio zone. Completely. All the residents of Mombasa are Azimio. You know, you must look at the domicile of a party. The domicile of UDA, like, you know, Kenya Airways is domicile in Kenya, Nairobi. The domicile of UDA is in the Rift. So who are people in Mombasa?
Yeah.
Unlikely.
They've picked the former senator, though.
Wait. The good thing about Honorable Kirwa's people, they like their place and their climate. There are not many of them in Mombasa unless they are working. They are not here in Nairobi unless they are working.
And I'll give Kirwa a chance to respond to that, because you've picked the former senator to vie for that seat over there.
Yes.
And Manzo is seemingly saying that there's no way he can win that. But he's won there before.
He's won as senator,
yes,
and he's likely also to win as governor. Because you see, there are certain things that defy the conventional thinking, and I'm shocked. The Honorable Dan Manzo now is becoming a dangerous lawyer. Because one, he's talking about polls that I do not know what the source is. Number two, even the statistics about demographics of Nairobi is debatable.
Yeah.
Who are the largest, who are the second largest, who are the third largest? Because that is debatable, because the Luhya nation is also present in Nairobi.
Yeah.
It's only that possibly some of them are in Azimio, and that may give him some comfort.
Yeah.
Finally, the people of Rift Valley, we don't just love Rift Valley. And for his information, the bedrock of UDA is not Rift Valley alone. It is pervasive throughout the country. Central Kenya, we are doing very well. And Mount Kenya region and the diaspora of Mount Kenya, we are doing very well all the way to Nyandarua, Nakuru, all the way to Trans Nzoia.
Yeah.
They are with us in UDA. So to say that we are only in Rift Valley is reducing a very serious party with almost over 7 million members within the last 1 year. We've registered over 7 million members into a regional party. It may be regional in future, but as of now, it's the party to contend with.
Yeah.
We cannot just reduce it to the region of Rift Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Prof on this. Prof, and there are two issues. First of all, this ticket where they say it's now Wanyonyi to deputize Igathe. What do you make of that combination? And what do you make of the debacle in Mombasa, where now Wiper is fronting Sonko, you're fronting Abdul Samad, this other side is fronting Hassan Omar, who was a former senator of the same place? Let's start with the Nairobi one, the Nairobi equation.
Trevor, the Nairobi question, in my view, is a clincher. It is a clincher because Igathe will speak or will represent Mount Kenya. And I think it is no-brainer, and Manzo is right, that perhaps you have Nairobi, the majority of residents of Nairobi are from the region, because this is essentially an extraction of Kiambu. Historically, this is central Kenya. And of course, this Maasai land, the Maasai would move and the Kikuyu would move and stay. So you have, if you did the demographics, you'd find that there are more Kikuyu in Nairobi than any other community. You then would then say that you have made a choice of a member of the majority community, and therefore you have the majoritarian command in Nairobi through Igathe. The second largest community in Nairobi, I think, is the Luhya community. And it is, we normally say the Luhya community in Nairobi is a service community. They came in together with the Luos to provide services to the settlers then, and I think the number has grown. So it is clear that Wanyonyi then has a big command in the city. And that is why an Igathe Wanyonyi partnership for governor and deputy governor is almost, or will almost carry the day. Yeah. And I think if you add the Kamba vote, and they also are sizable, in Azimio, then you are certain that this will win the vote in Nairobi.
But Sakaja is also...
There's a difference. Sakaja, you know, there's something about
Sakaja. To pick a running.
Yes, but there's another question. There's the extraction question of Sakaja. Sakaja's middle name is actually Koskei. I think not everyone knows that, but it's Koskei. He's from Kirwa's backyard. And of course, he's always been known as to be Luya. But I think the Wanyonyi equation in the Nairobi race, I think will capture the Luya vote. Of course, Sakaja, the Honorable Sakaja Senator, excites the youth. He's delivery oriented. I know he's an astute debater. He's done well in Senate. But in terms of the vote, if we are to look at the sheer balance of communities in Nairobi, I can tell you that the Igathe Wanyonyi ticket will get Nairobi. On Mombasa, let me say this. His Excellency Sonko was impeached in Nairobi County. Back to Mombasa, Running Manzo says that, of course, the law is, the Constitution says, if you are impeached and you don't challenge the impeachment, then you are incompetent to stand as a candidate, unless there's a further appeal. I must confess that I do not know whether the Honorable Sonko still has appeals going on. I know that perhaps in the Supreme Court he has a matter going on. I do not know. So I will not speak to the exhaustion of local remedies, because whenever you're facing a charge or having a civil question that would remove you from the race, you must, once you show that you still have litigation going on, or you have not been convicted, or the last appeal has not been concluded by the Supreme Court, you can still run for any position. I think that is what the IEBC said.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether or not the Sonko impeachment question is still part of a judicial process. If it is not, then there will be a challenge in court. If it is, if he still has reviews and further petitions in the Supreme Court, then I'm sure he can still run until the determination is made. But it is bad for Azimio to have two sets of candidates in Mombasa. It is very bad. It almost speaks to a betrayal of Azimio within Azimio.
Yeah.
Azimio should settle for both Nairobi and Mombasa on a set of candidates to serve all the interests. And especially, and I believe, Trevor, once the debate on the deputy president is concluded, it would make a lot of sense for Azimio to settle on a governor and deputy governor for both Nairobi and Mombasa. These are key cities. You cannot allow different candidates from Azimio parties to compete against each other. Because if you do so, you will automatically hand over the governorship and deputy governorship of both Nairobi and Mombasa to UDA.
Yeah. Doesn't this justify what Professor was saying, that Wipers consistently put hurdles along the way? Because Mombasa has clearly been stated that they'll give to Abdul Samad, but then you give Sonko a direct ticket.
Well, what has happened, the debate begins again with the running mate. That's where all things get settled. If you settle the running mate question, you begin settling many other questions.
So if the running mate is given to Kalonzo Musyoka, you will withdraw.
Then you begin talking and calling the parties to talk and give them different positions and put your people together. You know, there was a zoning issue, which Azimio kept on flip-flopping on. You say today we have zoning, tomorrow we don't have zoning. Then today you say, I want ODM 6-piece everywhere, you know. Then, so what do you do with your partners? So that's a matter which has not yet been settled, and those are the things we really need to settle. Otherwise, we are also handing over power generally to UDA. That's why the question of the deputy president is not debatable. That's where you know a fish rots from the head. If we are having a problem from the top, then it is going to run all the way down. And that's why, you know, as Honorable Raila Odinga as a presidential candidate, he must clear that, so that they begin sitting with his deputy and sorting out, because there are three main parties. Yeah. You have even Wiper is the third biggest party in the country up to today. So when you begin, since Wiper, Jubilee are together, and you know Jubilee is led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who by his status, having the instruments of power in this country, is bigger than any political party. Is bigger than ODM himself alone, together with his government, and is bigger than UDA. And can even do many things politically. You know what we call the deep state. Yeah. Is 99% of all the governments in the world are largely controlled by deep state. Even in America, when Trump won, by later on, there are many other deep states which run that country. Still brought, the Democratic Party back to power.
Yeah.
So those dynamics are very important. Then the president himself at the presidency is very, very powerful. And that's why you still have a lot of deep state coming from the deputy president within government.
What is the deep state according to you?
You know, the deep state is a system of civil servants which run the government, from the army to police to the ministries. And I'll tell you, it appears in the Bible 9 times. So it is not something you can wish out in the world, because it is historical and it seems it is God planned. And I'll give you just one example, so because of time. You know, King David one time was at war. And the soldiers heard that he was lamenting, he was thirsty, but he did not send anybody for water. Yeah. So the soldiers went killing people, the opponents, all the way to the well and drew water for him. But when the water was brought to him, because he had discernment, he knew it could have also been poisoned by the opponents. He said, if I take this water, and many people have died of it, I'll be like God. So the deep state picked. The soldiers around him picked that he's thirsty and acted without his request. That's how deep state operates. There are many other examples I will not give now.
Kiro, what do you make of this conversation? And also, well, there's a question here from someone. It says, why is Kiro bragging of UDA numbers, but they never use those numbers to do their recent nominations? This guy, he calls himself King Sipto.
Well, I don't know where he was when we did the nominations, because it's the people of Kenya who are members of UDA, and also voters, because we had the latitude of choice, either to use the register from IBC or to use the party membership list. And some of our candidates said we cannot exclude other Kenyans from participating in the nominations, and yet tomorrow after the nominations we go asking them for votes. So we gave the freedom, and depending on region by region.
In hindsight, what were the greatest lessons for that? Because you did this across 36 counties, then had to repeat in 13 counties. There was a lot of fallout left, right, and center.
No 13 counties. It is not a total repeat in 13 counties. There was certain areas where possibly the MP issue, the ballots did not arrive in good time. There was issues of logistics, issues of emotions rising so high. And also in some of the areas we repeated because there was an appeal, which went with the tribunal, and the tribunal affirmed that the appellant had a case, and we had to respect the views of that. But back to deep state. For me, deep state is a myth. If deep state was not a myth in Kenya, I'm sure BBI would not have, reggae would not have died. So because the deep state all the time, they were telling us there is still another corner, that they were going to corner us as UDA members. Now, as to the issue of tribe, you know, the good professor, and I've always respected him. Many times he's been on the show. I've been praying for him to win a seat, because I think he's a very good representative, level-headed. But now he has gone down to the middle name of Sakaja. In my constituency, which I represented for 20 years, I have a man called Kamau, and he's not a Kikuyu. He's a Nandi. And I have another one in Chepsiro called Otieno. And Otieno is not a Luo. He's a Nandi. Some of these names people have chosen because of certain conveniences. And, you know, you have even Obama. You have somebody like Mandela. And they are not from South Africa. But what I know about the Honorable Sakaja is he has Luya blood. Whether his father is a Luya or not, we don't know who our fathers are. Even those, the four of us seated here, our mothers told us, this is your father. And we accepted because that's what we were told. Now, what I'm seeing Dan Mahanzo is doing is done a lot of prosecution, and he has acquitted himself in making Kalonzo the running mate. Everything goes back to Kalonzo as the running mate. So I think Baba should be informed that Kalonzo's running mate will solve a lot of things even here in Nairobi and Mombasa.
Let's bring up some of the feedback that I see here at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Let's bring that up if we have them, or read them through on my laptop here. Let's see what's going on. Let's bring up that feedback right now at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak and see what you're saying. Engineer Lazaro says calculations of running mates should be left at the hands of the joint committee. This is a very delicate process that requires a wide consultations, immense running mates, soul searching, and consensus. Okay? Let's bring up what else you have there before we go to the next that we have around here. Let me see, bring it up from my laptop here. Timo says, according to Daniel Manzo, Coast is an Azimio zone and UDA can't win a single seat. Do you know that Mtambweni is in the Coast? Secondly, do you know that Honorable Hassan is the former senator from Mombasa? And before you forget, he was a Wiper member before he moved and saw the light. That is directed to you. He was only disobedient. Had he listened to Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, he will have become the governor now. Okay. Maingi Mailu says, Manzo is just insincere. Yeah. He says the larger combination is with Azimio. He is bitter with Kibwana because he is contesting the same position as him. The three governors will never be inconsequential as he claims. On the contrary, they determine the direction of the Kamba vote. I don't think so. I don't think he lives in Ukambani or understands politics at all. Okay. As we bring up most of the feedback and gather them, let's talk about the nominations issue, and I'll bring you in, Prof, on this. In hindsight, what was the best way of doing it? Jubilee has decided now that they're going to just give direct tickets. You went for the nominations. There's still a lot of acrimony in different places. Which is the best way that parties can approach this issue of nominations?
Trevor, honestly speaking, nominations are a delicate exercise for political parties. They're delicate because they must get it right. And if you don't get it right, then you end up with litigation before the various tribunals. And so in terms of time, remember the cutoff time for nominations is today.
Yes.
The 22nd. And therefore parties are supposed to conclude all their nominations by today. I think that the ODM primaries for Nairobi are running today. And I think there's a repeat nomination for GEM constituency. I think that is, those will be the last nominations for ODM. And then, of course, then you'll have litigation before the IDRM, the Internal Dispute Resolution Mechanism of Political Parties, and then PPDT. Others have gone to the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal, established under Section 40 of the Political Parties Act. So you have that framework going on, and then, of course, it will go on. Remember, by the 28th, names should be submitted to IBC, names of nominees. So it is expected that between now, in the next 6 days, certificates should have been given to all parties. Jubilee was unable to conduct nominations because of timelines. And of course, preparedness is all important. So I think that where they give out tickets based on a scientific method, that is one of the options, where you know there's a popular candidate, you've done research, and you give that ticket. Nominations well run are a good thing. They not only embolster the candidate, but also speak to direct democracy, since the citizens make a direct choice. I would, any day, go for nomination. But political parties, unfortunately, start late. They need to do it in a checkered form and also start early, so that the cutoff doesn't catch up with them.
So it's a matter of timing.
With hindsight, I think that nominations are the best way of getting candidates. Look at the case of Bomet, women rep. Some lady called Toto was elected from nowhere. I am sure Toto would not have had a direct ticket because nobody would have known about her.
There are even allegations that she tried to reach out to the deputy president and was not allowed to go beyond Karen. And of course, Ron Bukira will talk to that.
It would be difficult to allow her unless you know who she is in the political field. And that's the problem. That if you want a real grassroots person who is popular with the people, subject that person to the people. Because a lot of people think they are popular until they go to the ballot box and get rejected by the people. I think that is the way of testing democracy and fairness.
So we should stick to universal suffrage.
Stick to universal suffrage. That is the best test. And as Manzo says, he says the most popular senatorial candidate for Makueni. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He says he will beat Kibwana any day. I think they should go to that. They should try their popularity he can run with Kibwana, and I can assure you that one of them will win.
Yes. And it is true because Professor Kibwana is still a member of WIPE up to today. So he should go for nominations with me today because it's the last day.
Honorable Kirwa, what do you make of the nominations issue? And also you were mentioning it earlier on. In hindsight, what is the best way of doing it? Should you have staggered it over time? And is it true that Toto tried to reach out to the deputy president, was not allowed because she's just a young girl, nobody knows who she is, until the people decided that this is a woman, right?
Well, I know aspirants were coming to see the deputy president, and possibly because of her age, they did not know whether she was an aspirant or she was somebody trying to hike a lift.
She came in a matatu.
Into the bandwagon of the aspirants. So I cannot really qualify because I was not at the gate.
That's a clever answer.
But now back to nominations. I think there are a number of fundamental things that we should do as a nation. One is to request IBC, request Parliament and Senate in future, that if there are any legislations, any rules, any laws to be amended, they should do at least a few months before the election. This amendment, issuing of rules upon rules, is going to cloud the issue of nomination and cause a lot of difficulties. Jubilee had problems with timelines because if those timelines were properly structured from October last year, every party would have prepared itself, given the fact that it is not easy to go for nominations. Now, I have three ways of selecting the candidates. You may call it nomination. If polls are credible, because that is where the danger also lies. If polls are credible, I should be told I'm polling very well or I'm not polling very well. Then we can now have a consensus around who is a better candidate. You'll have saved the party a lot of resources, because if you are to do proper nominations, whether it is in UDA, in ODM, it will be a fraction of the bill that IBC uses to carry out the general election. Because in the nomination, like for us in UDA, we had 7,000 aspirants running for the few positions, 1,500 for civic, 290 for parliamentary, 47 for various positions at the county level. And that means you are dealing with 7,000 to reduce them to less than 2,000 people. 5,000 people will have to lose. And we need more resources than the party can access. So if we can do credible polls, that will be one way. Now, we also need to improve the party system so that the officials of the party are serious, committed members of the party. Today, when I lose nomination, I say I'm going independent, I'm running away to another party, although that window is not there. Now, this issue of going independent once you lose an election is something that we need to improve the culture of the party itself, democracy within the party, so that I feel I own the party to a certain extent, and when I lose, I wait for the winner to win in the final stage. Finally, I think this is still an exercise that we need to engage on, because democracy is a reflection of the values of that particular society. And if society has not accepted that when you win, I respect, and when I win, you also respect, it is something that Kenyans need to be socialized into.
But in hindsight, should you have staggered this instead of taking the whole 36 counties at the same time? Should you have done maybe one county every week or 2 or 3?
It would also have been a very serious exercise. I would have said we could have done clusters. Let's say you do region, call it, you do Nyanza, possibly 1 week. Then the next week you can do North Rift. Then you do South Rift, given the diversity of Rift Valley. And you just move, possibly within a week you clear your nominations. But to stagger for a longer period is also very tedious. And it would have caused a lot of backlog when it comes to the human resource at the headquarters. But we say let's do it one day. Where there is it is messy, we clean it, and we allow the tribunal to make the final decision. All this we are doing within a span of like 2 weeks.
Honorable Manzo, what is the best way? universal suffrage, or what do you recommend?
Personally, I like nominations. And the first time I went into politics, I went for nomination with Honorable Peter Keilo, the late, who was a former member of parliament in Makueni, and won at the nomination. And I think if you subject people to nomination, you choose the best leader. However, there are people who eventually don't face nomination. Like for now, I've been expecting people to challenge me in Wiper. In my 2017 election, they did. This time, I haven't been challenged within Wiper. But I'm definitely going to meet 2 or 3 on the race. And I think if we have to build strong political parties, we must really do nomination. The challenge was, this time around, I even went to court. The challenge was the party list. Because earlier on, we were using the IBC list or universal suffrage. Everybody will walk in, vote nominations, and leave. You cannot tell a gentleman in Kisumu that is not ODM. You'll be running into a fight with him, whether you have registered him in ODM or is a registered voter. So that has to be purified so that in future we have solid party lists. And also people keep on changing their parties. You remember you have the freedom to associate. So you'll find a lot of people were moved to UDA in a way they did not understand. So when they check electronically, they say, I'm sorry, please transfer me back. I'm finding myself in UDA. I'm giving it as an example. I'm not blaming UDA. But that's happened in Ukambani largely and many other parts of the country. So and also somebody will find themselves in ODM when they're actually a UDA member. Rarely so, though. So we need to purify the party list and strictly use a party list. That has not been improved enough, and that has been the challenge in these nominations. And that's why you see all these appeals processes, and they'll soon be completed. On that particular note, then when should you nominate? If all the lists for nominations should be there by a certain date, when should be the list for the presidential candidate and deputy? I think it cannot be staggered alone. When everybody is making returns, they should also make returns.
Okay. Prof, you know, ODM decided to go the digital way, but there are still also complaints. Some people were saying their names were not there, their pictures were not there. What did you see on the ground yourself?
Let me confess, Trevor, that on nomination day, speaking for myself, I visited about, I went to vote in Masogo, Nyangoma, then visited about 8 polling stations just to check that everything was okay and everything was working well. In instances, I think that in some sub-counties, I think in Yakach, there were initial questions of 1 or 2 MCA candidates whose photos were not there, and that was sorted out by the technical team within before time. I think there's a WhatsApp group for aspirants, so I could see what they were posting or polling stations saying this one has issues, and what the technical team would do, led by a commissioner, the commissioner running the election of Sintei in Kisumu County. She did extremely well, and they would correct those things then, real time. Because where there's no photo of a candidate, there can be no fairness. Because one of the grounds upon which the tribunal would set aside a nomination is if your photo was not there. That means there was no fair play. 3, where there's no voting in a polling station, of course the tribunal would set aside the election. What of course the tribunal would look at then is the numbers in that polling station and how that would affect the eventual outcome if the people were to vote for you. Of course, you can't go to the tribunal to seek to set aside a finding where the people are 400 and you've lost by 20,000 votes. That's a joke, of course. Even if you are given 20 polling stations for free, you'd still lose. So there are all these parameters that are there. But overall, the nominations were fair in many respects. I did not, in my tour of the polling stations, see any problem. I went to another polling station in Osiri, down Osiri, and I was impressed, Trevor, that the voters in Osiri said they voted for me because they see me on this program.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's the only reason why they voted for me. I think it's a good thing. So I think overall, the electronic mode of nomination adopted by ODM was an excellent method because it gave voters an opportunity to see the faces of the people they were voting for real time. They would then select and tap on the faces, and then it would record automatically.
Okay.
A BVR kind of system. I think that we must thank the chair of the board, Catherine Muma, and the director of elections, Junet Mohamed, for at least having this frame that then brought this kind of thing.
Okay.
Of course, where there are specific complaints of candidates whose tallies had issues, or whose photos were not there, or who perhaps complain that there are irregularities, those ones have a right to go to the tribunal. The tribunal, I think, will determine those questions in return. But remember, in that tribunal, the IDRM for ODM, in those dispute tribunal for political parties, you must file your complaint under the rules within 36 hours.
Okay. Let me bring in some of the feedback and then take closing remarks from me, because we're running out of time here. Let's bring up some of the feedback. Mutava Jafet says, Azimio is likely to make the same mistake made by NASA, where they allowed affiliate parties to field candidates in places like Nairobi against their opponents who fielded a single candidate and gave them an upper hand. Let Azimio sort their issues as soon as possible. Okay, let's see what else you're saying here. B. Kavindu says, ask Maanzo to comment on Wiper's infringement to democracy by giving Ukambani MPs direct nominations. I am B. Kavindu, MP independent candidate, Mwingi Central. Of course, it's B. Kavindu. There must be aggrieved. You'll talk about that in just a bit. Idoka says, point of departure for me is that the biggest tribes in Nairobi are not the biggest voters. Some of these tribes go back to their villages owing to their proximity to the city. Okay, fair point. Let's see what else you're saying here. J.M. Musoma says, ask Professor Tom Ojienda, why is it always correct when ODM says something and a sin when Wiper takes a position? Does he mean Baba is always right and Kalonzo is always wrong? Okay. Saito King says, Kalonzo fronted Sonko, hoping to use him to negotiate for part of Mombasa County. They know that he can't win. Kalonzo is very shrewd. Okay. All right, let's take closing remarks, and I'll start with you, Honorable Manzo.
Yes, I want to respond to that particular lady from Mwingi Central. In Mwingi Central, we use the pause to are very authentic. And if you have a very weak candidate who has paid very little money to the party, you are not going to spend millions of shillings conducting nominations for an answer you know. So we wish her well in independent. And my final comment is that owing to what happened in NASA and CORD, if really Azimio wants to take over power in this country, it's very simple. We must be consistent in what we do. We must look at the numbers. We must be reasonable. We should not use emotions. These are politics, and the politics are no Kalonzo, no Raila. That's the hardest reality.
Honorable Kiro.
No Kalonzo, no Raila. Well, I just wanted to comment on the issue of party register and assist my younger brother, Dan Manso, that it was not UDA alone that were getting members bouncing. We had a lot of difficulties with many of our members. You find yourself, you have moved to UDA, later on you are taken back to Jubilee for those who are in Jubilee, or taken back to ANC, because I was a member of ANC before I moved to UDA. I think what is important is we need to assist the Office of Registrar of Political Parties to have the requisite capacity to be able to take this information at one go, and also to stabilize the membership lists so that in future we do not have a lot of problems. Finally, I just want to wish my younger brother, Professor Ojienda, well in his endeavor to be Senator of Kisumu, and also join the people of Osiri in saying that I also voted for him because I saw him.
Prof, closing remarks from you.
Just two things, Trevor. It is not all lost to those who are not successful in the nominations, different nominations. The timeline set by the IBC sets the 2nd of May as the cutoff date for those applying to be independent candidates. There's a 10-day, almost 12 days between now and then when they can apply to be independent candidates, present their symbols, resign from the political parties. I think it is not correct when people say that you are locked. Once you lose nominations, you are locked. If you think you are unfairly treated by a party, I think you have a choice, if you think you are worth it, to try to run under independent.
Okay.
But let me also say something about Kalonzo Musyoka. I like Kalonzo Musyoka. Kalonzo Musyoka is a senior counsel like myself.
Yeah.
We're in the same, small community of senior counsel. We are just about 40. Out of course, there are about 10,000 or 20,000 advocates. We're just about 40. So Kalonzo is a dear brother, is a colleague, and I mean well for him. So let me respond to the email that I respect Baba deeply. I also respect Kalonzo Musyoka, and I do not mind. I mean, the point is, let the advisory council settle on one of the options here. If they settle on Lee Kinyanjui, Peter Munya, Peter Kenneth, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Martha Karua, I think in Azimio we shall support that candidate.
Okay. All right, that's how we leave it for now. Kipruto Arap Kirwa, Deputy Chairperson, UDA, Dan Manzo, Deputy Secretary, Wiper, and Professor Tom Ojienda, Kisumu Senatorial Aspirant. Thank you so much for making us understand what's really going on in the state of the race. And thank you all for the feedback that you sent through. We're taking a quick break now. When we come back, it's time for Level Up. All right? See you in a bit.